Good Sunday evening, high school sports fans. Joe Gillaway with Linglestown Gazette Sports live from the Orchard Street studio. And this is our high school football week 6 recap show. I'll be joined momentarily by our panel of experts as soon as we're done thanking those responsible for bringing you tonight's show, our Linglestown Gazette Sports Platinum sponsors. And they are Rickabah's Electric, Payer Apparel, Ted's Bar and Grill, Hoffman Ford, Freedom Financial Wealth Management, The Tire Mart, Linglestown American Legion Post 272 Modern Imprint, Team PA AAU Basketball, Crystal Bob at Howard Hanna Real Estate, Underdog Sports Bar and Grill, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Sam Hartley Decking, and Tonino's Pizza. Thank you to those great local businesses for their continued support of Linglestown Gazette Sports and our area student athletes. Okay, upcoming on Gazette Sports Chat this Tuesday, big one for you guys. Tuesday, 10-1, Steel High Rollers football players. 4 of the top rollers, seniors, 3 skill position players, and then we got an offensive, defensive lineman. I don't have their names with me now, and I usually don't announce the names beforehand when it's kids because you never know if they have to make any kind of adjustments or replacements. But this is a big deal. Coach Andrew Irby's a friend of mine, and I love following Steel High football. So we'll find out about the 4 and 2 rollers. And how they feel about moving forward and then making another run, at least for a division title and a district title. And who knows from there. Multi-sport athletes. We're going to do a show on multi-sport athletes. I've already secured Josh Smith from Mechanicsburg, one of the top basketball players, football players in the area. And I'm working on a handful more. I believe I have Matthew Parker from Central York. He's their place kicker going to Penn State, and he was also a starter on their state championship basketball team last year. And then I talked to Coach Jerry Yonchak from Central York yesterday, and we're going to bring 4 of his guys on, Central York football. So we're going to kind of dip outside of the Mid-Penn down to York County and get some Central York flavor on the show. And then, of course, a week from tonight at 6 o'clock, the high school football week 7 recap. So we got a lot going on here in the upcoming week or so. So tonight we're going to have Dave Burman, Travis Waters, Terry Clark, and then we'll be joined in just a little bit by Eric Thomas, who's our let's call it Western Pennsylvania expert. He knows a lot about the Whitfield District 7, and we try to get him to talk about District 8 and District 10 too. Whatever he knows, we'll take. So tonight we'll take a look at some games that send the message that some of the front-running teams may still have some work left. You know, we saw some close games. Most of them, the teams were still able to pull out, but you know, you just kind of were left a little surprised by the outcome of some of these games. We're going to start locally in the Mid-Penn Conference, as we always do, and then the District 3 as a whole, and then beyond. So Dave Berman's here again. He's going to cover District 1 and 12. No real marquee local games, I wouldn't say. And I say that with respect to East because East moved to 6-0. So I'm sure to them, guys, that's probably a marquee win. You know, they beat Cumberland Valley. You know, for better or for worse, Cumberland Valley is probably around an average team this year, but still, they had to work hard and they won the game. So why don't we start with East 34, Cumberland Valley 28. East again moves to 6-0, 5-0 in the Mid-Penn Commonwealth Division. Cumberland Valley drops to 3-3 and 3-2 in the division. The one I don't want to call it a cause for concern because Coach Lance Dean, after every game they play, he says we're 1-0 again. And you guys know what that means. Travis, you know what I mean? Dave, Terry, you guys all know what that means. And it's way more important that they're 1-0 again than what I have to say about it, okay? I want to be clear about that because I'm not going to say anything negative, but their wins are over teams with a combined 9-27 record. Next week, they play 2-4 Central Dauphin before that gauntlet, that 8, and it's a real gauntlet, 8, 9, and 10. State College, McDevitt, and Harrisburg. Did anybody else besides, I watched the whole game. Did anybody else besides me watch that game?
I watched
No, but I followed the comments on the Pennsylvania Football Forum, and a lot of people really laying into Coach Oswald. Man, I'm telling you, it's what's going on? Why are people so rough up there?
I guess it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, I think he's a good coach. I don't know. I mean, I could be so wrong about coaches, but then I'm hearing that they just don't have talent. So, I mean, which is it? I don't know.
I think
overall, in general, like the Cumberland Valley faithful, the fans, they're used to the wing T. Coach Oswald does not run that. He
Right.
runs the spread offense. That's what he
Right.
runs. So that in general, and you add that with them losing a couple games, is going to cause frustration and people saying, "Well, we don't have the type of team to necessarily run the spread, so why don't we add some type of wing team in it? Like we feel as though we have a big offensive line, which they do. But the problem is Cumberland Valley struggles to run the ball.
Oh
So
boy, do they ever.
it's one of those things like what do you do? Can you run a wing team when you can't even run the ball? So I don't know. It's
You have
it's
to
a
have
it's a
high
mess.
IQ offensive players all
Well,
around.
I'll say this. I don't think the answer is the wing T in 2024.
Right.
but maybe putting your quarterback under center sometimes so you can go play action.
Now remember, that's his second start ever, the quarterback.
Oh yeah. No, but I saw them against Mannheim earlier, the first game of the season.
Yeah.
And there is, when I say there's, I guess maybe I made a comment on a forum that they have zero athletes, and I don't mean it really in that term to be that not to be disrespectful to the kids, but when you look at like a CD East or a Harrisburg or McDevitt, they do not have the thoroughbreds that those teams have. And to run that spread, it can be kind of tough. You don't have a tight end in there. A lot of times you don't have a lead blocker. It can just going to be tough if you just don't have the athletes to kind of threaten people. CD East, they did the same thing they did against Cedar Cliff. They stacked the box. They had zero coverage, no safety over the top, and they dared them to throw the ball. But I will say this. I'm going to say this, and I'll let you go because I had a comment about season.
No, it's your turn, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll say this. It was a one-score game, but that game wasn't as close as the score would.
18 seconds left when CV scored their last touchdown.
Right.
East was not going to lose that game.
No.
Yeah, they pretty much controlled it.
They weren't in danger of losing that game.
Wasn't the first half odd though? Cumberland Valley went into the locker room up a point, and they got out yards from scrimmage. 255 for East, 46 for Cumberland Valley, and almost every one of those 46 yards was on that kind of fluke tip to Nolan Bazalka. He took it down, I think, inside the 5. That was like almost all of their production. They had so many big losses, like 3 or 4 huge losses. And I think we were all texting together, and I think we all knew it was kind of they were going to pull away at some point, East. But is that a cause for concern, like that, or you just got to worry about winning another game? And I mean, if they were playing a better team, it's going to be hard to win that game.
Right, and I think overall East right now, they're not worried about the remaining schedule. They're just taking it one game at a time.
As they should.
They're going to do enough to get the win. At the end of the day, the goal is to be 1-0. That's why Coach Dean always says that.
Yep.
At every game when they win.
That doesn't concern me about. I'm sorry. Doesn't concern me about East that the score was close. It was some fluke. It was really some fluky stuff that happened. And I at no time like, oh my goodness, Cumberland Valley might pull this out. Some of the stuff's not going to happen again. I do think they need to get that snap together on for field goals and extra points. That's problematic. But I mean, they returned that down inside the red zone. I just don't. I thought East looked pretty good. I mean, that running back, man, he breaks a lot of tackles.
They broke a single season East High record. Of course, it was he broke an NFL player's record. Chase Edmonds.
That's
Parsons had 315 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. That's ridiculous. That's 3 games worth of production, really.
Right. So to go back to Cumberland Valley, not only can they not run the ball, they also cannot stop the run as well. So like, it's just they have a lot going on that they need to work out.
Yeah, I saw East puts up points and yards. They out 472 total yards for East, 145 for Cumberland Valley. So Cumberland Valley picked up 99 yards of offense in the second half. Tidy game for Damaj Jala, quarterback, 9 for 16 for 152 yards, no INTs. Santana Young, 5 receptions, 110 yards, including a 70-yard touchdown catch. It's kind of like Santana Young's thing to have at least one long touchdown reception.
Yeah.
You guys notice that?
Yeah, he's due for an explosive play like every game.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Almost bank on that.
Yep.
At this point.
So he comes from a family of athletes. He is still
right. Absolutely. So I want to start and end with, we talk about this, and I'm only speaking for myself, and there's nothing negative that I'm saying just because these games are close. It's just something to talk about. And you guys put it best that all you got to do is get past whoever's in front of you and then get ready for the next week's game. So East High 6-0, congratulations, big deal. 5-0 in the Commonwealth, and up next for them is Central Dauphin. I don't know what we're going to see there. Central Dauphin, I don't know if they can keep up with them. They don't really
rivalry game.
It's a rivalry game, yeah. So we'll see. It's of course it's at Landis Field. It has to be at Landis Field. Yeah. Friday night at 7. And how about Susquehanna Township 21, Middletown 14? What about that game? And it was tied.
Yeah, so that game
tied till the end, really.
Right. So I did watch the game, and my takeaway from it was, I mean, at the end of the day, Susquehanna's playmakers made plays. It was a late 50-yard receiver screen that was the difference in the game that by Lex Cyrus.
Yes.
But overall, the score was 21-14, but Susquehanna really killed ourselves in this game. There was a lot of drop balls. There was a lot of self-inflicted penalties. And turnovers. They turned the ball over as well. So you add that all up, and it leaves you in the games, single-digit scoring games. And that's kind of what it was. I will say this about Middletown, though. Middletown surprised me, man. They're a scrappy team. I like what they did in the game to stay around with Susquehanna. However, at the end of the day, I felt like they were just a little overmatched. They just didn't have enough. But the good thing about Middletown is that they're a fairly young team. So they start a freshman quarterback, and the remaining skill guys are underclassmen, so they'll all be back. So future is looking up for Middletown.
I'm just going to guess that they're probably pretty well coached,
and that
the way that they've kind of turned things around there, and so good for Middletown. We don't have to get into. They just had some. It was worse than misfortune. They had some problems down there, but at some point you got to get back on the horse, man. And they've gotten back on the horse,
right?
So,
right.
But Susquehanna Township wins again. Just kind of shout out a couple of the big players there on offense. Lex Cyrus, 7 receptions, 100 yards, and a touchdown. That touchdown with 44 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Rakai Seville, 14 carries for 100 yards on the nose. And then Middletown had some decent rushing yardage. They had Gavin Paul, 12 carries for 66 yards, and Luis Roman, 18 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. So, yeah, it was a game that both teams set themselves up to win a game, and Susquehanna Township was able to close it out. So why don't we do this? I want to talk about some more mid-pen games, but since we have Dave Burman here, let's kind of transition over to he's our District 1 and District 12, our Philly and Greater Philly guy. Dave, there's some stuff going on down there this past weekend, wasn't there?
Yeah, let's talk. Let's go to 6A. I'm going to run down the teams in the top 10 6A and how they did. St. Joe's Prep over Father Judge, who's a good team.
Are they good?
Yeah. St. Joe's Prep
no, I don't know. I never really heard of being that good. But.
Yeah, St. Joe's Prep won 42-13. Father Judge battled tough, but just not enough for St. Joe's Prep. Central Buck South, District 1, they're 6-0. Beat Pennsbury 12-7, very exciting game. Mm-hmm. LaSalle College over O'Hara, 48-0, and O'Hara's good. They're a good small school Catholic League team, and they tried their best, but LaSalle College just too much depth.
We saw LaSalle College in week 1, and they're probably a hard team to play against. They just do so many things so well. At the end of 48 minutes, man, they probably have you just worn the heck out.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
All right,
Go
so
ahead.
LaSalle College wins 48-0. Imhotep over John Bartram, the Philadelphia Public League, a battle there, 60-0. And then we got, let's see, Downingtown West continues to roll on a big win over a really good 5A school, Westchester Ruston, Bayard Ruston 14-7. And North Penn 6-0. They're ranked 10th in 6A over CB East 42-21. Then Roman Catholic lost again. They've given up 90 points in the last 2 games. Top-ranked 5A team. Bonner beat them 38-30. An incredible game. You can check out the Delco Times story for that.
You told me at the beginning of the season or before the season that Bonner was going to be good, Dave. I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and Terry, you heard that too.
Yep, I heard that as well. And it's proven. I mean, they just knocked off Roman.
That's a good win there, man.
Now they're going up.
Yeah.
Now they're on the lookout for
good win.
now.
So Bonner would move up. Well, it's going to be interesting. In the latest rankings in 4A, Bonner was 8th, but all the teams
Which is crazy.
They have to be. Look, man, I think the world of Eric Epler. I think I think he's great at what he does. That one, and I support everything he does. That one's a little strange to me.
Yeah, there's no way they should be 8th. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we'll go to 5A. Roman Catholic loses. Then Ruston loses. 3rd-ranked team. Peters Township loses. Chester takes care of business. 5-1, beating Chi 49-7. Again, Chester should run the table, be 9-1. But Chester hopefully will be ranked number 1, move up to number 1 in the state. Lost to Imhotep 27-24. Imhotep, of course, ranked 4th in 6A, and Chester beat a good 6A Perkiomen Valley squad up with Perkiomen Valley. So hopefully Chester will be number 1. It'd be great for the school, great for Delco, and great for the program. And then Strathaven with the wing tee. They, again, 2 penalties the entire game, Strathaven. They threw 2 passes for 5 yards total, but they just continue to win. So maybe Cumberland Valley should get back to the wing tee. It's the kids have to buy into it. So Strathaven 6-0. They beat Marple Newtown, who's a really good team, 21-14. Springfield Delco is ranked 8th in district. The 5A, they won over Harriton, who's not good, 56-6. And there you have it. Now 4A, we have Bonner 8th, but in front of them, Twin Valley won, Aliquippa won, Pope John Paul. They're going to be tough to beat out of District 1 and 4A. Wyomissing won, Thomas Jefferson won, Lampeter Strasburg won, Shamokin won again. So Bonner probably will stay at 8th. And that's pretty much does it for District 1, District 12.
They have a lot of the bigger schools. They don't have too many of the smaller schools down there. Bigger and medium sized. Just to kind of shout out PA football news, they did have Bonner Prendy at number 3 going into this. That's a big. Usually, you're going to be within a couple. One ranking service to another. So they saw things a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's a little more accurate in my opinion.
Yeah. So let's
It's going to be. It's still you look for Roman in 5A to make it to the state semis against. In my perfect world, being PA announcer for Chester. Chester against Roman, but Chester's got to win that District 1 championship, which they were runner-ups last year. And Coatesville, watch out for them. They're 4-2. They're going to have, I think, run maybe can afford one more loss to make the District 1 tournament. They're a young team, Coatesville. They're 4-2. We'll see how they do against Downingtown East, Downingtown West coming up.
So, Dave, you're a Chester guy, like tried and true. What does the community think? I mean, Chester's always been a basketball school. We know that. Do they get excited when Chester's good in football? Because I say this every week. Like, kind of Chester's like inching, they're getting a little better and a little bit. This is their best team now, right? In the last 3 to 5 years, is this their best team?
Remains a lot of guys back from last year, a 12-2 team that went to the District 1 championship and lost by a touchdown to Strathaven. It remains to be seen. They will be if they can make it at least to the state semifinals, it would be the best team ever.
Are they excited down there? Did the fans?
Of course, everybody's good. Intense, and at homecomings next week, we have the Academy Park. Could give Chester a good game. We'll have to wait and see. Great coach Jason Voshesky. They're 3-3, but Chester has to go down the biggest home in the entire United States when it comes to high school football homecoming.
All right, great. Dave Burman, our District 1, District 12 guy. How about that for timing? E.T., Eric Thomas,
Right
how
on
are you?
time.
How are you, Eric?
I'm just kind of wondering, like, is Dave going for the McAfee thing here with the tank top? Or what?
He seems to be in a different room every time. You're not like in the shower or anything, are you?
No, it looks like
You're losing. You're breaking up.
it looks like 2 screens.
I don't know. As long as you're here, man, you gave a good report. We appreciate that.
I think the wife might have him in the basement or something.
So, I know. So, Dave, thank you. Stick around, buddy.
Thank you. You can hear me now?
Yep,
Better,
we're good.
that's better. Whatever you're doing, do that. Not the other thing. Eric, lots of stuff going on over the weekend. Every weekend in the Whitfield, District 7, for those who are unfamiliar. But, man, wasn't it a kind of and I want to say this before you get started. You called it after week 2. You said, and I can almost quote you, Central Catholic lost again. They're 0-2. Do not read into it too much. Right? You remember saying that?
Well, there really wasn't a point because they had so much left to go as far as their schedule goes, including the big one that they had with North Allegheny over the weekend. See, anybody who thought that they were going to be, dead and gone because they had lost a couple of non-conference games to out of town, out of state teams now, there's no chance.
You don't understand football if you write a team like that off after 2, especially a strong program like Central Catholic. So go ahead, buddy. You got the floor.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of big games out here this weekend. Central Catholic beat North Allegheny 27-14. Good game. This was the one of 2 spotlight games over the weekend, the biggest in 6A by far. But look, they're both gonna meet again. I mean, they're gonna be in the WPIL finals. I don't know if we had touched on this earlier, but they've switched the formats around as far as how they pick the teams in the WPIL playoffs this season. But 6A, because there's so few teams, it's still going to be 4 teams that are there. They're clearly the 2 best teams. There's nobody else that can really hang with them. There's been a couple of disappointments with some of the other teams. Cannon Mac is pretty good, but nobody has the horses to hang with them. Interesting thing in this game, though, was the Central Catholic defense held North Allegheny to -5 rushing in the second half. So the defense showed up a little bit better. It was only a 3-point game at the half. North Allegheny actually tried and I've never seen this before, but they tried a free kick field goal at the end of the half, and they have a kid going to Alabama to kick. And everybody thought he was the best kicker in the WPIL. Well, then Billy Leach, who comes out for Central Catholic late in the game, hits a 54-yarder. So
Matthew Parker from Central York hit a 54-yarder last year. He's going to Penn State.
It's
free
incredible.
Kicks. Same deal.
I mean, just watch the NFL today. I mean, there's so many teams that stress the kicking, or watch like Bama the last couple of years. Even when they won national titles, they haven't had a kicker. They got a kicker now. This kid from North Allegheny is going to be good. But you look at 6A out here, Joe, and the rest of it is these 2 teams are combined 9-3 overall. The rest of 6A is 8-21. So the rest of the 6A teams in the WPIL do not even have as many wins as the 2 North Allegheny and Central Catholic. They're far and away the best 2, and they're going to meet again. And if Art Walker did the same thing he did last year, he didn't really show them a whole lot. He'll come back in the WPIL title game and he'll completely have a different game plan, and he'll give Central Catholic stuff that they haven't thought about or saw the whole season. But good performance from them. I mean, their defense was great. They had 5 sacks. They picked off NA's quarterback Brady Brinkley twice. They had played a 2-quarterback system at NA, and they just went with 1 the rest of the way on Friday night. And they ran the ball well, and North Allegheny lost one of their best players too. So we'll see how that hurts them the rest of the way. I don't think it's going to hurt them as far as getting a rematch with Central Catholic. Can they beat them? I don't know, but they're going to need their sophomore quarterback to grow up pretty quick at NA.
Eric, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many teams does District 7 get in 6A invited to the tournament?
Just one, just the champ.
One.
No, I mean to their 6A to the district
for the playoffs.
Yes, for District 7 tournament.
It's only 4. It's a unique system this year, and it's one that I don't necessarily agree with, because what they're doing is, because there's only 8 teams in 6A, they're taking 4. But then in 5, because 5 is a bigger classification, they're going to take 12. But how they're doing it is they're going to take the top 3. This is for 5A. They're going to take the top 3 in each conference And then there's a committee that claims that they're going to sit and watch all these other teams, and then they're going to pick 3 wild card teams.
Yeah, they use the eye test out there.
That's kind of crazy.
They're not going to sit. No, nobody's watching all these teams. I'm sorry, nobody's taking the time to sit down and watch all of these teams for 3 hours on a Friday night or cram session on a Wednesday or Thursday night to figure out who the best team is. So a lot of it's going to be looking at a score, looking at a box score.
That's not fair to some teams.
It's not. But I didn't think it was either. But then when you start looking at some of these schedules and how the rest of the season breaks down, all the big games are mostly from October 11th on. So in 2A, I think there's a couple next week. So everything happens in the next 3-4 weeks, and some things are going to sort each other out, and then they'll be able to make a better decision on it. But like in 4A, I think it's 8 teams, and then there's 2 wild cards, and then in 3 it's 12 with 3 make it from the top 3 in the conferences make it, and then 4 get or 3 get a wild card, and 4 teams get a bye. And then 2A is, I think they're going 3, and there's 4 wild cards, and then 1 it's the top 3 in each of the conferences and 4 wild cards too. So it's a bit of a mess, but there's some teams that have a chance to do some damage here in the next couple of weeks that can help their cause out for sure. It's a weird system. It's a really unique system, and honestly, points are the best way to go, and points should count. I think they should count if you play an out-of-state team, because a win's a win. It doesn't matter who it comes against. You tell me that if you want to challenge yourself by playing a team in Ohio that shouldn't count. You still won the game.
Right.
So any of these rankings that don't include, like when St. Joe's Prep plays out of state, sometimes you'll look at their state ranking, you'll see like they're 4-1, quote unquote. No, they're 7-1. They played 3 teams out of state. You have to count those. I think they should count for something.
And if anybody wonders, well, how come there's so few 6A schools in the Whitfield in District 7? The 3 best 5A schools were all big schools until recently.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them won state championships, 2017 and I guess 2020, maybe 2021, which is Pine Richland and Peters Township. And then Upper St. Clair years ago won a 4A title. So
4A, yep.
Yeah. So we got 3. I mean, that's crazy. Eric, we were talking, but we're all in the same kind of text thread throughout the week. And man, how much fun is 5A out there in District 7?
Awesome.
Oh my
awesome.
goodness.
So try this on, guys. So Upper St. Clair beat Peters Township on Friday. That was the other game of the week. They beat them 21-7, 500th win in program history for them. Julian Dalem had all 3 touchdowns for Upper St. Clair. Then you had Bethel Park, who beat Moon 45-36. Bethel Park's got a top 4 passer and a top 2 runner on their offense. Their offense is off the charts. And the best part about the 5A thing is when you start looking at the conferences, the Allegheny 6 has Bethel Park 6-0. They have Upper St. Clair, who's undefeated. They have South Fayette, who's undefeated. And Peters is in that division or in that conference and just lost Upper St. Clair tonight. So there's a lot of stuff that has to get sorted out. Now, the other thing about the wild card too, guys, is when they pick these 3, they don't have to, they could be all 3 from the same conference. It doesn't matter.
As it should be.
It doesn't, it's not like they're going to pick an extra team from, the Allegheny, or like in single A, like they won't take just 1 from the Big 7 and 1 from the next one from the next one. If all 3 schools that they pick are in the same conference, they'll pick them. So to me, I think, all of those teams like Peters and Bethel and South Fayette, Upper St. Clair, I can't see any of them not making this. You're not going to punish the defending, runner-up in the state in Peters Township. But then you look across the other sections in 5A. Franklin's 5-1, Woodland Hills 4-2, Pine Richland's 5-0, North Hills is 5-1, and Penn Hills is only 3-3. But Penn Hills has the biggest win of the season. They beat Aliquippa last week. So
wow, great win.
There's a lot that has to kind of figure itself out. And then you look at the schedule. Bethel plays Upper St. Clair on the 11th, then they play South Fayette, then they play Peters to end the season. Upper St. Clair still has to play South Fayette. That's this weekend coming up. And then South Fayette has to play Peters, and that's also on October 11th. October 11th is sort of becoming like the Judgment Day style night out here, because there's so much action in some of these other classes across that are going to decide conference races and maybe seeding in the playoffs. It's been a madhouse. I mean, from 5 down, all 5 of those classifications are incredibly jammed in. There's so much good football left to go yet.
And,
But Eric, how does how far how do these teams in 6A match up with State College or Harrisburg, Manheim Township teams that could meet them in the state tournament?
That's a good question, and I have not seen either State College or Manheim. I have watched a couple of Harrisburg games. I honestly think, if I had to guess right now, I mean, we don't know how the brackets are going to shake out. I think obviously Manheim and Harrisburg will be your favorite for a District 3 final. That's a good matchup either way. I think Pitt Central might have a little bit more to knock off either one of those because their defense is so good. North Allegheny is going to be really good in like another year or two. They're very young right now, so they replaced a lot of guys. And then if they don't have Liam Flaherty, who's their best offensive player, I don't know how they're going to go the rest of the way. But they're starting a sophomore quarterback. They play a 2-quarterback system, and it really wasn't working out. I mean, they were good, but they weren't sort of like the NA of the last couple of years. And I don't like personally, I don't like the 2-quarterback system. I'm not Art Walker, so I'm not making those decisions. But I go by that. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. I hate that system. I don't think your offense can ever get in a flow. If one of them is a completely different style where you run with him, and then the other guy's like your passing quarterback, maybe. But the way that they were rotating those guys, I don't think it was going to work out too well. I have to give a slight edge to the Central Catholic right now. I just think their defense right now and what they've been doing the last couple of weeks is going to be a big problem for whoever they run into.
Yeah, that 2-quarterback thing, that's kind of for like pony ball or midget ball. I'm with you there. I mean, if it works, it works. You
need to have 2 because one of them has to be ready, but you can't expect your offense to operate with any kind of fluid, just especially the style that Art Walker runs. I mean, he runs a lot of pro set stuff, and they can spread the ball out. They can line up in the I formation. They do a lot of different things. He's a brilliant coach. He's got a really good offensive staff, offensive coaches there too. I need to see that rematch. I think I kind of need to see that rematch if NA's healthy and they get on a neutral field and, they get a little bit under their belt here the next couple of weeks. But right now, the Central Catholic defense is just, they're firing on all cylinders. They might be one of the best 6A defenses in the state.
Nice. I saw they honored his dad. I saw Art Walker Sr. was there the other night, Eric.
Yeah, that was a pretty
88
cool
years young.
Yeah, how about that? His son, I mean, Art, I had a chance to talk to him a lot last year in the run-up to the state championship when they played St. Joe's Prep. He is – I don't know that I've ever talked to a coach that is wired as tight as that guy. And, I mean, he forgets more football than any of us will ever know, but – I brought stuff up to him from like 2012, and he was telling me, we talked for probably like an hour and a half that day, and he's telling me stuff like down distance, time on the clock, what they ran, who lined up at what position and stuff. I'm like, how do you even remember that stuff from 13 years ago? Like, I had my first run in with him when they played Central Dauphin for the Western Final in 2011 when CD won that game, and I just remember him kind of being a little bit like pushy and a little, he was kind of cantankerous that night, like he really didn't want to talk and everything. And I had brought that up to him because I ran into him at some point prior to last season, and and I said, I don't know if you remember me or not. And he's like, yeah, I know. You're the guy that did the CD Rams game. Like, yeah, I know. We lost the game. You don't have to remind me. Like, he just went on and on about something.
You weren't going to remind him either. I know that.
2011. I wasn't going to say anything. I don't care about that anymore. But yeah, he's a different dude. He really is. And I saw a couple clips from his dad, and I sort of understand where he gets it from.
So he would be like maybe the Ford Chapman of the Whippeal?
That's what I was going to say, Ford Chapman.
Yeah. I would say, I would say as far as like knowledge and understanding of the game and like how to put things together, he's a savant, just like Ford is. Is he as... I got to be careful because I love Ford and he's one of my dear friends. But is he as high wire as Ford? No. No.
That's
would you would ask me who I'd rather do a game with? I'd probably say Ford because all I have to do is just say hi and then he'll just go for the next 3 hours.
Yes,
I don't think Art would be able to carry you like that. But Ford are comparable. When you actually sit down and like talk X's and O's, they're very comparable as far as what they know. They just present it in a different way.
We're talking down distance and situations from 30 years ago. Remember?
Yeah. Like, I mean, listen, I just watched, an NFL game 3 hours ago, and there was like plays in the first quarter that I don't remember. And this guy's telling me stuff that happened at a high school game on a neutral field in 2012. I'm like, man.
Okay, whoever wins, I got the 6A brackets, state brackets in front of me. So whoever wins District 7 goes right to the state quarterfinals. They'll play either it looks like probably State College, I would imagine.
That's the way it is, I think, every year.
They do that now, where basically District 3 finals like a state quarterfinal. So
right,
the District 3 champ goes right to the state semis. Yes.
Right. Yep. Right. Against the winner of that game, right? They still stay on the western side.
Well, remember, Eric, the last time they did District 1 versus 3 in the semis, I worked in the booth. I forget what I was doing, but you and 4 worked together, and it was Hershey Park Stadium. Remember that game?
That was the Coatesville-Harrisburg game.
Correct, yeah. And that's the last time.
2017 or 18. Whenever Harrisburg had that really good defense. That's
the last time.
18, yeah.
I think I was spotting or something for you guys or whatever. Yep. But man, that's a good tandem. You and 4 together, that's for sure.
We actually did a game the night before too.
That's
he and I had never called a game together until the night before that. And as soon as I got in the booth and we started talking about stuff, I knew right away. I was like, oh man, all I got to do is just set this guy up and he's going to fly.
Right.
Eric, how good is Erie McDowell, District 10?
I haven't seen him. I don't know. I ran into one of their old coaches a couple weeks ago, and I had asked him about that because they seem like they're kind of the mainstay up there right now. I mean, there isn't a lot obviously in 6A up there anyway, but I mean, what do they have? They have them, and they have I think Erie High. Erie High, yeah. I mean, so there's no competition for them up there. That I think tends to hurt them a little bit when they step into those inner districts because they're not seeing the level of competition. I mean, if you think about what State College is going to see before they get to a District 6, even though District 6 is not great, they're already going to play at Harrisburg. Great game that was. They're already going to play McDevitt. They're already going to play Cumberland Valley, who I know got knocked off on Friday. But the amount of games that they're going to have played against quality teams is going to certainly help them when they get to that level. East High 6-0, right? So that's going to help them. But I just don't think that the level of competition is there, and that's a little bit of a concern. It's definitely the lower classifications up in 10 that are incredible to watch. But
Erie McDowell plays Erie Prep this Friday night coming up, so that'll.
Yeah, and I mean, what are you going to learn from that? I don't know. I mean, that's tough to say because you just don't know what you're gonna. You don't know what you're going to gain from that. You have to play that game, but I don't know that we're going to learn anything. I don't know that Prep is what some people thought they might be either this year.
Right. But Prep will play either Mifflin County or Hollidaysburg in the state quarterfinals.
That's like a bye.
No, I don't know about that.
That Hollidaysburg team is pretty good this year, yeah.
Hollidaysburg looks okay.
They did lose to Fort Hill.
So they'll play Hollidaysburg then, is what I'm saying.
I think so.
Mifflin County got a new quarterback.
We don't have time.
Please do not get things going. He's already pulling off a McAfee. Don't get him going on.
Yeah, we don't have time for that today, Dave.
Okay, but Hollidaysburg lost to Fort Hill, and Eric, you can tell everybody about Fort Hill, Cumberland, Maryland, powerhouse there.
I can't tell them anything about Fort Hill.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know anything about.
Single A school, 9 state. They're like the Southern Columbia of Maryland. So they're.
Eric, thank you very much. Eric Thomas, do you want to stick around for a little bit? We're gonna.
Yeah.
We're gonna transition.
I got to tell you real quick, Joe, before you jump into the other stuff here.
The floor is yours.
One of the things that we're gonna do, and I'm looking forward to this in 2 weeks. Our network that we kicked this around on Friday night. We are actually going to produce a red zone style broadcast to supplement the 3 games that we call that night. So we have a studio where we're at. The company that funds all of our stuff built it for us. We're actually going to tap into. We might do like 2 of our own and then pick up an agreement with a couple of schools and then see if we can take a feed from somewhere else. But we have the ability in our studio to actually bounce around to like 4 or 5 different games if we want to. So we're going to have on 2 of our channels, we're going to have an actual production going on of a game. And then on our 3rd channel, we're going to have a studio host. We're going to have the ability to tap into those other broadcasts. So if fans actually want to watch from around the county, if they want to watch any of the action, we're just going to bounce like game to game to game all night on that channel. It's going to be pretty cool. I think it might, if we pull it off, I think we're going to go back to it. I don't know if we'll do it again this year or not, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna. We got the blessing to do it, so we're definitely gonna mess around with it and maybe like try to do like a dry run with another sport or something just to see how it works. But we're looking forward to that. We hope it's something that catches on and we can keep doing it.
Thank you. Thanks for interrupting me because I had written down here, ask Eric about Red Zone. Because remember we texted.
That's right.
About
Yeah.
Yep. That's a big deal. So I didn't have to ask you. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're kind of advanced way past us out there.
Yeah. When is that going to kick off?
We're going to do that on October 11th.
11th.
So yeah.
Okay.
So I think what we might try to do is we might try to either mess around with like, because we'll do some other sports during the week like soccer or volleyball. We might try to mess around with something there, or we maybe do like a dry run with something. We have a couple of pretty big games that are coming up in the next week or so. But yeah, it's going to be October 11th. We're going to I'll send Joe the link so if he wants to throw it out there. But I think it's going to be a unique concept, and we're hoping that A, the action is not hard to follow, and B, that we have a way where we can like put the screens up like in a 4-box, so whoever's in the studio can just like look, on the screen. Maybe they don't have to like call them up or whatever, but that way they can follow what's going on and then just like bounce from game to game. Kind of like if you have YouTube TV and you put a 4-box up and then you like scroll over to one and then hit the button so you get the audio on it. We're going to try to do it that way.
We promise that we will
cool.
share it live as it's going on.
It.
Terry, he's the monitor of the Pennsylvania High School Football Forum. We'll share it on there, and we'll share it on Lingelstown Gazette.
Okay,
Sports.
yeah, that'd be cool.
So that'll add a bunch of viewers. Yeah, thank you, Eric. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Again, lots of stuff that we would have had no idea how to talk about. So that's Eric Thomas, everyone. And while you're here, Eric, you're welcome to stay the whole time. But I know that that you know a lot about Central York, and Jerry Yanchuk. They played a big game Friday night, and Central York doesn't. After this, early in the season, they don't play a lot of big games because they play out of that York Adams 1 league. But Dallastown, this was supposed to be their year. Well, maybe it still is. I don't know. But Dallastown was at home. It was a big game for Dallastown. I don't know what else to say. Central York had not lost to a York County team since 2018 when they lost to both William Penn and Red Lion that year. And they ended up finishing, I think, 8-3 or 9-3. That was under Josh Oswald. But Dallastown had a chance to close it out, man. And I don't really feel bad for fans too often, but I like Jerry Yanchuk a lot. He's like one of my favorite coaches, but I kind of felt bad for those Dallastown people, man. That was like finally their chance, and Central York. Did anybody else watch that?
Yeah.
It was on. Yeah. Central York had opportunities that they just squandered. A bad snap in the shotgun and just a bunch of stuff that they could have closed the game out earlier. And I thought, in my infinite wisdom, now Dallastown has a chance to close this game out. Dallastown scored first in overtime. Central York jumped, took the ball from the 3 to the 1.5, and that's when you think, well, Dallastown will probably run the ball. Dallastown has athletes. They got a good couple of linemen. They got a good running back. I don't remember his name, but they still kicked it. And Central York scored, and same thing happened. Dallastown jumped, went to the 1.5. Now, I talked to Jerry Yanchuk yesterday. They were going to go for it from the 3. On the road, he said it would have been, of course, a little bit tougher to get in from 3 to 1 versus 1.5. And I said, did you change the play? He said, absolutely. And he said, I kind of felt like from 1.5, we were definitely going to score. And he said, and if Dallastown had the ball against my defense, I would have felt like Dallastown was definitely going to score. And it wasn't even tough. And so, it was just a really big win for Central York. And Jerry just keeps on trucking down there. Eric, you know Jerry. And this is kind of his team that he was on 2 of our shows before the season started. I do a show with PA Football News, and then I have my own. And Jerry always comes. He always brings players and stuff. And he's like, he always loves his guys. He always loves his team, like for real. But he's like, this is a young team. He goes, we don't know what we have here, and a little less talented on offense. And I don't know if this team holds up against Manheim Township or Harrisburg, but a big win nonetheless.
8 brackets in front of me. So whoever district 7.
Now Dave's listening to him. Now he's definitely got. Dave's got McAfee. Dave's definitely got McAfee. He's all about himself. I see it now.
So
He's too big. Joe, I'll tell you what about Jerry. It didn't surprise me that they went for it, and two, can we start giving this guy some credit as for how good of a coach he is?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Think about what he went through when he was at Central Dauphin East, and the East team. I think finally has somebody that is guiding those kids in that program in the right direction. Lance Dean. I mean, Lance is going to blow up at some point and get at a higher level if he wants to, and I hope he never leaves there. And I really do honestly hope he's there for 10 or 15 years. That program needs somebody like him with that stability. And Aaron did a great job to lay that foundation there and got them in the playoffs a couple times. But they just, I mean, how many jobs or how many hats did Coach Blandian have to wear when he was there? I mean, he was basically coaching everything, and then I think he was one of the principals too, was he not? So
he was bailing out other programs too.
Yeah,
they needed coaches,
Right,
like,
girls basketball, track.
Yeah.
I think he was like softball or whatever,
lacrosse,
whatever.
Lacrosse. Yeah.
But Jerry's like he's a wizard, man. Like I remember talking to him too before when they played St. Joe's Prep the COVID year. And just, thinking, I'm like, do you guys have a shot to win this game? And he was like, he kind of like laid everything out for me. And I just said, all right, well, you've got the quarterback, you've got the talent. I think he just needed like a better support system. He's found a niche there, and he's got the support of that community and those people down there to keep him going. And I hope, again, like I just said about Coach Dean, I hope he sticks there for a good 15 years or so if he wants to coach that long.
His guys love him. He gets a van and just loads it up with players and goes to interviews and whatever, shows and stuff. And you could see kind of like when he's talking and he's got 3 or 4 or 5 guys with him, players, they're kind of around him like campfire kind of thing. And they're just watching him talk. And then he tells me all the time, man, these guys are awesome. And so anyway, yeah, that's a great scenario down there at Central York. And, they're that one team that can kind of, under some circumstances in some years hang with our top guys up here, but just another big win for Central York and a letdown for Dallas. I don't know how else to put it. I just thought, oh man, that's a terrible walk to your car for the Dallas Town fans after that one. Eric, here's another one for you. We knew that things were going to change a little bit for McDevitt going to the Commonwealth. They struggled, and I know it's a win. Okay, we've already started this show with a win's a win, and I mean that 28-21 over Altoona, and Altoona was tied pretty late in the game. Late enough in the game. It's kind of a welcome to the Commonwealth, and I think McDevitt's going to win a lot of Commonwealth divisions. Okay, because this Harrisburg, like it's called, they're on a big cycle from like 2016 to now, but they got to kind of drop off eventually. Altoona entered the game 0-5. They had been outscored 152-20. They scored more points Friday night against McDevitt than they scored in the first 5 games of the season combined. What happened there? Anybody know?
They scored 28 points in the first 5 games of the year. 20 points in the first 5 games of the year.
20 points, and they scored 21 Friday night.
Yeah, it sounded like they dominated the time of possession. Like Nick McDevitt, we believe, went up 14-0. And then after that, Altoona kind of dominated. Kind of reminds, kind of weird, like, how does Altoona play with McDevitt, but how does Carlisle? I saw Carlisle on Saturday. How does Carlisle play with CD East in that game? I just, it's just sometimes you just had those games, I guess,
And I always throw this in, and I'm not throwing it in to prop up Central Dauphin at all, but Central Dauphin had Altoona down 21-0 early in the second quarter. Now they only won by 15, but and then they beat Carlisle 48-0. So there's no rhyme or reason in the Mid-Penn Commonwealth, right, Terry? There's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah,
we know who the better teams are, but we don't know about who can beat whom.
Yeah, if you're basing this strategically off of the scores, it would just make you just look at it and just shake your head like, what happened there?
No.
But at the end of the day, win's a win, so they'll take it. But yeah, another game like the Chambersburg win over Cedar Cliff, 38-13.
Yeah.
Like nobody's seen that coming.
Cedar Cliff beat Central Dauphin. As you guys can see what I'm doing, got that close to beating East, and lost in the end of the game. They didn't get to overtime, right? It was the end of the. But anyway, it was a close game against East, and then they lose by 25 to Chambersburg, who's probably the 3rd lowest team, worst team in the Commonwealth.
In the Commonwealth,
Yeah.
sure.
So it's kind of like another welcome to the Commonwealth game for Cedar Cliff. Yeah.
Right.
Cedar Cliff's holding up well. We've discussed
They
this
are.
before.
They
Colin
are.
Gillen, he's got his guys ready. You know, they're just not going to make a huge splash. They just got to try to say, hey, look, we belong here. We can go toe to toe with toughness, and I think they're doing that. But yeah, it's Chambersburg. That had to be a fun win for Chambersburg, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge win for their program.
Really big win.
I will go back to what you said about the welcome to the Commonwealth. I'm curious if that, like Cedar Cliff, you know, if they're starting to feel the effects of playing the Commonwealth schedule, you know, if that played a role in that game. You know, I don't want to say that about McDevitt. I don't know what happened in the Altoona game, but I mean, maybe that is playing a role. You know, it's a pretty big step from the Keystone.
Right.
And Altoona is good for one of those every year. Remember when they went toe-to-toe at St. Dauphin a couple years ago?
Max Mosey had to have a out of his mind fourth quarter for Central Dauphin to win that game.
Yeah, and then they beat State College the one year they got.
Yeah.
Didn't they beat State College like 4 or 5 years ago for the District 6
Yes,
title?
they did. Yep.
You know, so they're good for one of those every year, and just a shame that they can't get that program running. It's my understanding most of the talent is now in the Hollidaysburg area. So.
And then some of their talents at Bishop Guilfoyle.
At Bishop Guilfoyle, right. And which, I mean, you know, they're a machine too, but it's just a shame that Vince can't get that you know, that support there and keep that program where it was. I mean, we're just talking like 20 years ago, that team was a perennial champ in District 6 every year.
Okay, let's do like a speed round here. Here's some other games that are kind of interesting for different reasons. East Penn 35, West Perry 14. West Perry, really good team. We know that. They lost back-to-back games now. John Denniston at East Pennsboro had to have it. I did the color commentary for the Penn Live broadcast, I guess a month ago now, and Trinity just freaking shellacked East Penn. And that's when I knew Trinity was pretty darn good. But East Penn's, you know, they're 4-2 now, and I think they have one loss in the division. And I guess John Denniston has them back on track. So there's a good game, a good win for East Penn. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen there. I think Trinity might win out, but who knows? Camp Hill 7, Halifax 0. Camp Hill, defending district champ, beats a Halifax team who is now 0-6. And you know me, I try my hardest not to say that wins are bad, but that's a horrible win. But it's a win. Speaking of terrible wins.
Hey, Joe, don't tell that to our boy Luke Brown. Don't tell Luke Brown. The Fighting Luke Brown's won. That's all that matters to him.
I know. I'm just trying to kind of have fun with this stuff. But, you just wonder how that happened. Speaking of games that you wonder how it happened, Milton Hershey, man, I love those guys. I know you know Coaches Boger, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they lost to Newport. Newport entered the game 0-5. And now here's kind of Eric, you haven't been around for these two rising a little bit. West York 20, Eastern York 18. Both teams entered 5-0. Both teams have aspirations of a district championship. Cocalico 30, Manheim Central. Central is now 2-4. Every loss by 16 points or more.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Down year for them.
They were 32-6 the last 3 seasons before this. So they averaged 2 losses a year. They have twice that many at this point. Anybody have anything to say about any of those games?
I'll go back to the East Penn West Perry game.
Sure.
So I'm not exactly sure what occurred in this game because I didn't watch it, but I do know that East Penn pretty much controlled it. They scored 20 points in the first half. I'm assuming that Brad Hockenberry didn't play in this game. I could be wrong, but I know that he got hurt the week prior in that loss to Middletown game. He didn't play the entire second half.
Oh, yeah. Can make a difference.
So if he did not play in that game, he makes a huge difference. Hence why maybe that the outcome was what it was. So that makes me a little curious. But regardless, like you said, it's a great win for East Penn. They moved to 4-1 in the division now, which sets up a big game versus Susquehanna Township.
I have that on my upcoming list right here.
Yep. And if you remember last year, that was a really, really crazy game. Susquehanna ended up losing it, and East Penn won the division. So
I was on the sideline for that.
So Susquehanna had this game in particular circled on their schedule, so they'll be ready.
Good information there.
Very, very pleased to see Steel High had a big 43-40 win over
Line Mountain.
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
That's a
and
good
Steel
win.
High's number 1 in AA.
Good win. I mean, you know,
That is
Andrew
good.
Irby was on our show out at Aruga's. That was the PA Football News / LG Sports Show. And, you know, I said, you're probably approaching this season with the same attitude, with no different, you know, just kind of gave him like a canned question. He said, no, you can't approach this season the same way as you approached the last 4 seasons. He said, everything's different, you know, and, but he's got to do what we talked about with Coach Lance Dean. He's got to try to go 1-0 every week. And they have 2 losses, and then they're Juniata, they got their tails whooped. And who else did they lose to? They lost another game. But I think Coach Irby's doing it as well as he could be right now. You know, he's got them poised. They're tied for first in the Capital Division. They're number 1 in the power rankings, 2A. And listen, they're coming off 3 out of 4 state championships. They didn't just fall off the map, you know. They're doing well. They have athletes. Have you guys watched them? I watched 1 game. They have athletes.
Yeah, the big game. Well, they'll beat James Buchanan, Steel High, and then Camp Hill will be probably a district championship preview coming up.
Here's the guys I have coming on my Gazette Sports Chat, my regular podcast this Tuesday. Yamir Caesar, Nazir Fuller, James Jim Evans, and Devon Reed. We will be hosting those 4, same format as this. You know, from they're gonna pull them out of practice. They're gonna be close to the. I told you, don't do that. You know, you don't. And they said, no, it's okay. We'll be winding down. So they're gonna come out of practice and go in the coach's room and get in front of a camera for that. So Coach Irby's another one. You know, along with Cal Everett and a bunch of coaches, Janchuk, they just make themselves available, and they do it probably for the kids, I would think, you know. So, so here's some upcoming games, and then Eric, I'm going to both of you guys, Dave and Eric, I'm going to ask you guys if you know anything that's upcoming out there. East versus CD, who knows what can happen there? You know, CD is not a bad 2-4 team. You know, I've seen them play. They actually protect the ball better than they usually do. They go 9-3. And have so many penalties and turnovers. Eric, you saw it for years. They're just not a talented team, but I don't know if they can stick with East. Cedar Cliff at State College. A loss would knock 1-loss State College probably out of the division title opportunity. So they'd have 2 losses, and Harrisburg would have none. Steel High at James Buchanan. Same as above with Steel High. They got to have it, you know, if they want to win the Capital Division. Susquehanna Township at East Penn. Biggest Mid-Penn Commonwealth Division game to this point in the season, my opinion. Both teams have 1 loss. Trinity has 0. The loser is out of contention for the division. So there's some games to look at around this area. Eric, what do you have out there? A couple sexy ones for us.
So we'll go quickly class by class. We talked about the 5A ones and how all those teams have to sort each other out. That's going to be starting this weekend with Upper St. Clair and South Fayette. Those are all Allegheny Conference games. In 4A, the big one on Friday in 4A is going to be Montour and Newcastle. Newcastle was undefeated. They went on the road Friday night. They lost to Aliquippa. They got just lambasted by Aliquippa.
Tripled up.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the thing about it is, had Aliquippa not lost that game to Penn Hills the week before, Newcastle actually has a shot in that game, but no chance with what had happened with Quippa the week before. So Montour is also undefeated in the same conference. They have to play both Aliquippa and Newcastle yet, and they get Newcastle on Friday night on their home turf. So that's going to be a big one. We're actually going to do that game on Friday night, so I'm looking forward to that to see what Montour has. And then the next one will be if Montour wins that, they're going to end up being in a showdown with Aliquippa down the road. 3A, there's a couple of big ones yet. On the 11th, you got Deer Lakes and Amani Christian. Most everything that we need to see happen is going to come in the next 2 weeks after this weekend. But there's a couple of big ones this weekend. Elwood City and Western Beaver in 2A. Elwood City's freshly in the top 10 this past week. They're 1-2, 1-3 in the standings. So they're both going to meet this week. That's actually a Saturday game. And then in 1A, most everything is the 11th. The 11th has everything big. Fort Cherry, Bishop Canevin, the Shannikin Southside, and Clarendon Leechburg. Those are all probably going to be conference title games, but they don't come up until October 11th.
Is Westinghouse kind of clawing their way out of losing their best player?
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, they're fine. they're going to win the City League. University Prep is still undefeated in the City League, but Westinghouse is going to beat them when they play them. And it's that 1A. I mean, 5 is great. 5 is going to be great from a playoff standpoint, and 5 is going to be great because of the race within some of those conferences. 1A is still going to be the best playoffs, I think, on the western side of the state, because all these teams, you have Neshannock, Southside, Fort Cherry, Canavan, Clareton. Leechburg's going to get there. I don't know that I would consider them a contender just because they have too many mountains to climb. But any one of those teams that I just mentioned can win that 1A title. And then after you get through them, you got to probably deal with Wilmington and Westinghouse. Either one of those two are going to be way on the other end of that. And then if you get to the state final, who knows? I don't know what the East really looks like right now. But, yeah, 1A is going to be an absolute – just a carnival when those playoffs start.
I try not to root because I really shouldn't, because I'm technically a media member and stuff. But I was texting with these guys, Eric, the other night, and I said, I'm kind of rooting for Westinghouse. They lost 2 years ago. Yeah, I know. They lost 2 years ago to Steel High. Steel High was a really good team. Then last year, I mean, we saw what Southern Columbia did. Just took it down the field. They went Southern Columbia on them, and it was just a rough loss. But so I kind of hope Westinghouse can do something this year,
Yeah, I'd like to see them get back there. I'd like to see them. I think ultimately a lot of us would like to see Fort Cherry and them hook up somewhere down the line. Fort Cherry's healthy now. Matt Sieg is back to quarterback. He can use the thumb. He broke his thumb a couple weeks ago, but he's 100% again.
What an athlete he is.
He's incredible. He is incredible. So maybe those two hook up. I don't know. That would be a really, really interesting game.
Wow.
2 runners up in separate classes last year.
And then they go against Guilfoyle probably after that, right? Or Guilfoyle on the other side?
I mean, Guilfoyle would be on. I think they would be on that side because they're a Western.
No, I'm looking at it here. Guilfoyle's over.
Maybe East.
They go East?
Yeah, Guilfoyle goes East.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And I would say with Steel High out of the mix, they're probably your favorite in the East. I would have to think anyway.
Lackawanna Trail.
Well, we hear that name every year. So.
Yeah, they're always in the mix.
Yep.
So we need a helicopter, Travis. You know anybody with that? There's some good games. I'd like to kind of zip around.
Somebody just call James Franklin.
Oh my God!
He'll get one for it.
Wow.
Well, best game in the state probably Friday night. St. Joe's Prep LaSalle 7:00.
Oh,
Finally.
Yep. Been waiting on it.
Eric, the 3 of us except for Dave, Terry, you were at the first LaSalle game, weren't you, or no?
No, I watched.
That's when I physically met Travis, though. So he and I were at that game, and nobody here uses that as a gauge to. I'm not even going to Harrisburg, but man, is LaSalle? They just play such great football. I don't know what else to say. They block well.
I actually talked to one of their assistants in the run up to the season, and he had told me. He said, I don't know that I can say that we're going to play for a state title, but he's like, I have a really good feeling about this team. And I thought the assistant that I talked to, like, I'll tell you off the air who it was, but when he tells me something like that, I'm going to listen to it because this guy knows who I'm talking about. Dave can probably figure out who I mean by that.
They're not a real big team either. Travis, did you think they were big up front?
They're not huge, but they have decent size.
Right.
Like you said, they're well coached.
You need great technique.
They have 2 receivers that.
Are they for real? I mean, can they beat St. Joe's Prep?
I think
I think they have a shot. I think they have a
seen St. Joe's Prep.
Eric, all I talk about all the time is St. Joe's Prep, St. Joe's Prep, St. Joe's Prep. Really, don't I, guys? I think LaSalle College has a chance to beat St. Joe's Prep.
Now, the problem is they have to potentially beat them twice. Can they do that, though?
Yeah.
That's
or St. Joe's Prep potentially has to beat LaSalle.
Yeah, true. So
yeah. I will say this about LaSalle. They're a good football team. But what we saw them when they played Harrisburg is not the same Harrisburg team that's right now.
It's an overused term, but it was a juggernaut.
It wasn't
even close to the same team.
Yeah, it was a juggernaut. So, man, whoever gets a chance to go there and watch that game.
Yeah, right in my backyard. So that's why LaSalle was tired of losing to St. Joe's Prep. They hired the new coach, and he gets his chance on Friday night.
What else is good down there, Dave? Anything?
Of course, I'm excited for Chester homecoming, a big Del Val game, 3-3 Academy Park and the Clippers, 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday.
Okay, you have 120 seconds, 2 minutes. Tell us about Mifflin County. They got a big.
I gotta go, guys. Bye.
Okay. they got the win that I told you they'd get early in the season. I told Dave every game, win, loss, win, loss. Dave, I've been right for every game so far, right?
The game and that game between 2, 1, and 4 teams got a lot of coverage out there, Joe. I mean, Channel 27, the Lebanon Daily News. I mean, very deep, intense articles. And I don't know. I think Mifflin County will probably win 3 of their next 4.
Not a chance, Dave. I think one.
Well,
they Redland. I think they'll beat Redland. And who's the other one I said I think they could beat?
How about Waynesboro losing?
Yeah, I know, but
anyway, so it doesn't matter because, as we know, it's going to be Hollidaysburg, Mifflin County District 6 5A final. And Altoona, they don't have that rule either, so they can go in 0-10, and they can play. They'll have a chance to get State College again.
Yeah, that's just when you just want to not get injured if you're State College. You know what I mean? That's one of those games you can pick up bad habits when you play a game like that. Just go in there, take care of your business, stay healthy, and I hope there's no Altoona people watching. But
I bet you there are.
So that's it, Dave. Your 2 minutes is up.
Okay,
every week we'll give you time to talk about State College. Anything else, Travis? Anything for the good of the group? Any games you think you'd like to see this week?
I'm sorry, I had to put on mute.
That's all right. Any games of interest for you?
I think actually I am kind of interested in the East CD game, and again I want Susquehanna at these kinds of might head on over to that one.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Terry? The moderator of the Pennsylvania High School Football Forum. You do a great job at that.
Appreciate it. Like Travis said, pretty much just the Susquehanna game versus East Penn. I think that's the game in our area.
I like that game
to focus on. But like you mentioned as well, the East game versus CD, I think it's going to be surprisingly close. I mean, going off of what CD East likes to do, I mean, they like to win close. So I'm expecting another close one.
Man, East win. Parson and Santana Young are just playing such great football right now. I just wonder if Central Dauphin has like the legs to keep up with those two guys. But we'll see. It's a game that both teams will be preparing all week for, and McNamee's pretty good, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, at the end of the game, it's one game that both teams want to win, no matter what.
Yeah, it's kind of East used to be able to, every year for like decades, just about every year. Eric, you can attest to this. They could maybe not salvage their season, but if East could just get a win against CD, it's at least you could go, okay, And CD would probably really want to get a win against East this year.
Still the best performance in that game was when Chomp beat them. That was incredible.
Oh,
2012, 2014, somewhere in there.
Wow.
I forget when that was.
How about, oh, God, I don't want to call him what's his name, so I won't. The quarterback that transferred to Harrisburg. How about his fourth quarter performance against CD?
Kane Everson. Yeah,
Kane Everson.
Yeah, that was incredible in that game.
And that was and easily Central Dauphin was a better team that year. And, I don't want to say CD collapsed because they kind of did. They gave up that touchdown in the corner, the front corner of the end zone. Remember that one, Eric?
Oh, yeah.
But Kane had to make a play, So, that was pretty exciting. That was kind of the jaws were dropping all over Landis Field.
Okay. Before I get out of here, big game in District 1, 5A versus 6A. It's going to be Haverford, who's really tough this year. Haverford's the regular Haverford High School, taking on Springfield Delco, who has not lost a game. So Haverford has... it's going to be a good game. 6-0. Haverford is 5-1. So there you go. And of course St. Joe's Prep. Everybody will be checking that out. LaSalle College Friday night.
Thank you. Great show, guys. Man, you guys are really awesome. You guys know a lot of stuff. I appreciate it. So again, we're going to thank our sponsors after I thank our panel of experts: Terry Clark Jr., Travis Waters, Eric Thomas, and Dave Burman. Thanks, guys. You'll get an invitation for next week, same day, same time. And let's thank our Lingelstown Gazette Sports Platinum sponsors: Rickabaz Electric, Payor Apparel, Ted's Bar and Grill, Hoffman Ford, Freedom Financial Wealth Management, Tire Mart, Post 272, the American Legion on Mountain Road, Modern Imprint, Team PA, AAU Basketball, Crystal Bob at Howard Hanna Real Estate, Underdog Sports Bar and Grill, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Sam Hartley Decking, and Tonino's Pizza. Thanks to all our sponsors. Thanks to our panel of experts. I'm Joe Gilloway. Linglestown Gazette Sports Steel High coming in Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Have a great evening, everyone.